What's up, party people? Happy Friday, February 9th. My goodness, we are getting closer and closer to Right of Boom every day, and we're all very excited to hopefully see you at Right of Boom. I'm in sunny Florida. Pretty happy to get out of the cold New England weather for a couple of days. Come down here. Just did a short little 1.5 2 mile walk to breathe in some of that warm Florida air. And so we're really excited today here. We have, it's actually kind of funny because, Jennifer and I did something similar like this almost a year ago, right? I was looking at it and I was like, maybe we can do it a little bit better this time around. So, hey, I'm Tim Golden, founder of Compliance Scorecard. Obviously, we're here with our good friend, Tim Schnurr, and we're missing someone. Like our good friend Uncle Jesse ain't here, but that's okay. We'll try to fill in. We have some stuff that we'll share from him and some thoughts. But Mr. Tim, say hello. How are you?
Tim Schnurr, how's it going? Channel guy. I met Tim 2 years ago, and we've both been passionate about compliance. I do some vCISO work as well, but excited to have Jennifer on. I think we ran into you at IT Nation, and we're like, let's do this again. So excited to talk about selling cybersecurity, which is and hopefully I don't break up too much because I can see my little icon going crazy in the corner here. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about,
You're a little choppy, but that's okay. We'll get through this. And then without further ado, our good friend, our Sherper, Jennifer, take a second, say hello, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I should have been told to wear a ball cap. Like we got the Tim and Tim ball cap thing, and I don't have a ball cap handy, so you're gonna have to.
I'll have one for you at Right of Boom.
I love it. Sold and sold. So I'm Jennifer Bleam. I'm the Cybersecurity Sherpa, and I love all things related to sales. So we're going to be talking sales and probably some objection handling and good question strategies. I also have a best-selling book called Simplified Cybersecurity Sales for MSPs. Bestseller on Amazon, bestseller on Audible, very affordable in either location. And this is going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, and thanks for that. And having been one of the first recipients of Jennifer's book, it was a really great read. And for those of you that know me, yes, I bought the physical hard copy as opposed to the Audible version because it wasn't quite ready at the time. But I did get the Audible version as well because I'm an auditory learner. So I had the book in my hand and I could listen to it at the same time. It was a great pairing. For those that haven't had an opportunity, definitely go check it out on Amazon. So, hey,
I didn't know there was an audio version. That's awesome. Was it Jennifer Bleam's voice?
Yes, I actually recorded it myself. That is a whole conversation. Maybe we'll have time for that at the end about why you should maybe hire quality before cheap on things like that. I ended up having to read the book 3 times. Don't do that. But it is me, and I've gotten really, really good feedback on it. So yeah, you get to have my voice in your ear talking about sales, which is one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I had been thinking about writing a book, in between everything else I have going on. But so this topic of what do you get there? Oh, there's the book. Here, let me pull that up real quick. Full screen, right? So obviously you can see that there. But I had been thinking about our conversation a couple years ago. It's been almost a little over a year and a half now where, Jennifer and I have known each other for a while, been part of each other's Facebook groups for a while, kind of did some stuff with our peer group here, Compliance Scorecard, kind of doing some of that sales training, sales education, because it's not really the thing I like to do. And I always try to bring in experts like Jennifer to help us do that. And so, I thought today, I can't believe here it is, 2024, and we're still talking about having to sell cybersecurity, right? And so cybersecurity, what is that? Maybe we just need to start all the way back to the basics. What is cybersecurity?
Yeah, it does surprise me a little bit too, because the very first podcast that I did when I first started my company, so three to 4 years ago, was with a MSP up in Canada. And that was the first question she asked me, like, how is IT different from cybersecurity? And I'm not going to remember exactly what I said, but I drew a beautiful analogy about protecting your castle. And so the concept is IT is making sure like everything is running. So if we stick with the castle motif, maybe the doors swing and they're not squeaky, and there's maps everywhere, like whatever. Like the castle functions. It's about functionality. So if we the parallel on the IT side is, does my computer function? Does my server function? Can I get to Salesforce in the cloud? Can I get to QuickBooks in the cloud? Or the pieces talking to one another? Can I do my job? That's kind of like in the castle. Cybersecurity is about equal parts keeping the bad guys out. So what do we have in place to kind of keep them out? That's the ideal. That's kind of that holy grail. But then secondarily, what if the bad guys get in? Let's assume they put on the cloak of invisibility and they're tiptoeing down the corridor of the castle. How are you going to see them? How are you going to spot them? Do you have like, I don't know, like heat monitors or something to spot the bad guy tiptoeing down? And then let's say that they do some kind of damage to the castle. How are you going to clean that up? So as with all things, that are analogies, it does break down at some point, but that's the difference. IT is the day-to-day functionality, and cybersecurity is keeping the bad guys out of your castle, out of your house, out of your business, so that you can function, and so that your data is protected, so that your IP isn't lost, so you can create your widget, so you can do business. And so there's a similarity, and they do overlap. It's a little bit of a Venn diagram, but probably not as much as the end users might think.
Yeah, I love that analogy of keeping the bad guys out, right? Because, thinking about, managed services over the years, a lot of us started, tinkering with computers in our basement and then helping the neighbor. And before we knew it, we could start charging the neighbor. And, we continued to iterate and grow, and like, oh my gosh, I could do this a little more efficiently and charge a monthly fee for it. And like, we kept growing in this industry over the last, decade or two. Like, it's funny, I saw a post on LinkedIn earlier. Like, who remembers those massive warehouse, like, shows where there would be tables and tables and tables of computer parts, and you would buy all these things and put them together? Like, I used to love those swap meets, right? But we've grown, right? We've iterated, we've matured as an industry. We've just determined like we can, get more efficient by having some tools, doing some operations. But now, like with the proliferation of data, we have to protect that stuff, right? Like, we got really great at like getting efficient, getting operation, getting standard, like putting things in place so that we could not only just make money, but, provide value services to our customers. But the industry is shifting, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's a cost of, right? It's like the cost of, it's almost like seatbelts and safety and all the features that go with a car. Like, it's like, it's interesting because I went to a conference this morning and they said, what percentage of the IT budget should be spent on cybersecurity? And I think you're right, Tim. Like, I think 10 years ago, it was a ridiculously small amount, and there used to be server rooms and all that. And, but the game changed, right? And adversaries got better, and it's the Wild West. And, you said you got to protect data, and some of it's not even, and it's, they actually encrypt data, but do they actually care? They actually just want to like lock your stuff up. So it's data protection, but it's also uptime. And so
I saw a recent stat the other day. Maybe it was Wes that shared it. I don't remember, but like credit card data is like not as valuable as it used to be on the dark web, right? Now, PHI, health records, right? Like personal data, like beyond credit card, beyond social security numbers and credit cards, like that holds a lot of value, right? And it was an interesting, must have been Wes, and I don't want to pick on Wes.
IBM cost of breach, like they give those estimates, like each one of those things you just talked about, social security number, card, personal health record, blood type, whatever, identifiables is has different estimates in the IBM cost of breach. And as you said, social security numbers, because you can leverage them to steal Tim's identity, right? So credit card, it's like, you're not really on the hook for it, right? So,
so Jennifer, coming back to like, let's level set, right? Yeah. So we're great at, fixing printers and drivers and patching and managing some of those aspects of the business. But then you introduce like this whole level of cyber, right? Let's just kind of maybe try to, I hate to generalize, protecting data, right? Protecting, the crown jewels, as people say. So great. If now we know, like, we can fix printers and do other things, but now we know, like, we need to take this a step further. We need to, like, what? Maybe actually become the professionals that we know we are.
So it's interesting. I want to back up just a minute or two because I let you finish, but I'm not sure I 100% agree with you. Part of what makes these conversations so fun. So you said the industry has matured.
Some.
I would say the industry has changed. That's not the same as necessarily the industry maturing.
Yeah, probably mature was the wrong choice of words.
But let's
I think there's a lack of maturity. Yeah.
But let's go with that. Let's assume that the industry has matured. Let's assume 80% or better of the industry has matured. I don't think that's accurate, but let's just go there for a second. The problem is the people that the industry is selling to have not matured. Like, in their mind, like we were talking about cybersecurity, and they're probably thinking, and oh my goodness, it's like this hurts to say this, but they're probably thinking, but I have a firewall and antivirus. I have cybersecurity, right?
No, I would take that even further, and I would say, I have you. You're my cybersecurity.
Oh, yes. Well, yes. I thought you were keeping me safe. I thought you were checking all of the boxes and doing all the things. Isn't that what I pay you for? Right. So, we've now come, to one of the most uncomfortable sales objections, which, if you're hearing it, you probably should have had the conversation a whole lot sooner. And I don't mean like an hour ago. I mean like a year or 2 or 3 ago. But yes, the whole concept of, wait, I thought you were doing this, and you're like, no, I'm doing IT. And they're like, isn't that the same as cybersecurity? But you sold me a BDR unit. And so you told me backup disaster recovery was cybersecurity. Well, I mean, it's a piece of it. Yes. And so what I'm getting at is that the industry or the individual MSPs have to be able to have conversations with their clients, their prospects, their community. This is very much about education. And there's
I gotta talk to these people.
Ideally looking them in the eye. I know I'm getting I'm meddling now.
I'll put you on the spot and ask you that question, right? So I'm a legacy client. I've been paying the same $120 a seat or $80 a seat, whatever it is. All of a sudden, every month you're coming at me, you're trying to sell me some new tool or something like that, right? Like, why now?
Yeah.
Why now, Jennifer? Yeah.
I think you thought you were throwing me a hard
I've never been breached. I've never been breached.
You actually threw me a softball. So here's part of that problem. Number one, I'm coming to you every month trying to sell you something. That's the wrong cadence. Number two, if I'm trying to sell you a product, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. Nobody wants to buy a product. They want to buy a solution to a problem, or they want to purchase something or invest in something that is going to mitigate a risk or keep something bad from happening. It is not about selling products. Ooh, Mr. Customer, please buy my EDR, MDR, XDR, SOC, SIM, SOAR. Don't that if that's what you're selling, you're doing it wrong. So what you have to sell is the outcome or the impact of the impact. And you can go two ways. You can pull that thread either way. Here's the impact on your organization if you do nothing and Murphy's Law strikes. and there's a very good likelihood that Murphy's Law will strike. And here's how it's going to impact your organization, or if you're speaking to an influencer, I like going for the here's how it's going to impact your division. Oh, so Tim, you're in charge of Tim, double Tim, like Tim squared. You're in charge of sales and marketing. So what happens if you're down for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? How does that impact pipeline? How does it impact next year's hiring and firing? You just told me you want to purchase a new CRM because it's, you know, fancier and you're going to drive sales velocity and all of these things. But now you're down for 6 weeks and you can't close a single deal. And some people are going to go elsewhere, take their business elsewhere. So how would this impact not just the company, the ethereal company, although that can be valid if you're talking to a CEO or maybe a CR, maybe like a the finance people, but a comptroller maybe, but revenue.
So there's a little fear. It sounds like a little FUD coming at me, right? But I'm also like, why, you know, like I've been safe all this time. You know, we felt pretty comfortable. Like now you're trying to tell me something bad's going to happen, right?
Yeah. So my goal. So let's role play it. Then we'll step in.
That was just what I was going to say. Let's play this out.
Let's do it.
Let's play this out. So
yeah, for sure.
I'll be the SMB. Tim, you be the MSP, and Jennifer, you coach us. How about that?
Cool. Done. I love it.
So, hey Tim, nice to see you. It's been a while. What's going on, my friend?
Great to see you, Tim. You know, I want to sit down and talk about how, you know, what kind of job we're doing. But I've got something, you know, I think I've been meaning to talk to you about, you know, securing your business more.
You're already in the frame where you're apologizing. So I'm going to say there's something really important that I need to talk to you about.
Yeah. So there's something really important that we need to talk about. Like, have you read the news? You know, the you know, being on the internet and your business has a lot of aspects of being on the internet has gotten more dangerous. These are shitting out there, and we're keeping our eye on them. Have you seen any of this, Tim?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, that's why I have you. I mean, I don't have to think about this stuff, right? We have our IT company. Like, yeah, I mean, I've had a friend down the street. He runs this, you know, a veterinary anyways, like he got breached or something, but his IT guy wasn't that good. So I could see why that could happen. But I mean, you're the best because I have you and we're fine, right?
I like it. So Tim, the MSP, I want you to play this from the angle. You absolutely do have me in your corner. And that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah. So yeah, Tim, you know, we really work hard to provide you great IT and be there for you. But you know, it's interesting. Do you realize, like, do you know anything about like why it happened at that veterinarian clinic? Like what was the cause of it? Was it, you know, do you have any more details on that, or is it in the news?
I don't know. He was like shut down for a while. Like he had to go get a Gmail address, and like he couldn't he couldn't even take appointments. Like he had to like send all his dogs and cats to another place. Like it was pretty awful because you know, they've been in business like 30 years, family run, and like they were like out for like a really long time. And you know, like I said, they didn't really have a good IT guy like you. So you know, they had some high school kid that just graduated college that you know was trying to, friend of a neighbor's cousin trying to help them out. So yeah, I could see. But you know what, Tim, I got you, so we're fine here. Like no problem. I don't have to worry about anything.
Tim, I'm honored to work with you. But you know, I think some things out there. We're a little worried. Go ahead, Jennifer. Yeah.
I was saying, do you want me to step in? I was going to type some comments in the chat, and it's got me locked out. So I'm so sad. I can't. I was going to like help you out by typing in comments. So take the angle of you do have us in your corner. Part of what you pay us for is the CISO, whatever. We're always keeping an ear to the ground, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Things have changed, so take that angle. Instead of being like, I'm really, don't argue with them, agree with him. Agreeing is powerful.
Yeah. So Tim, thank you. And you know, we're still really trying our best to protect you. And I think some things have changed out there. I believe you have some people working at home that don't work in the office anymore. Is that right, Tim? Or,
oh
you
yeah,
want to make
yeah.
sure
You know, the whole COVID thing. Let me tell you, the first year was awful. I lost so much paying rent on a building that I never had people in. But then I had this firewalls and all the stuff there and internet and like kept paying and paying. And finally, I just like, you know what, like figured out a way to get out of the lease legally and correctly. And like, yeah, like, you know, everybody is working from home. You know, sometimes I get a little worried on like, are they actually doing work? Are they actually being productive? Like, I haven't quite figured that part out. But yeah, I mean, they pretty much just grabbed their computer and went home. So it's fine. I mean, we got you on the back end, so it's been great.
Yeah. So, I mean, we really want to do our best to protect the entire company, both the people in the office and from home. So it's going to require, potentially some things we want to look at to make sure that they are also safe as the people in the office. So
okay, hold on. We're in this time out because I don't want to go to a solution yet. So I can't. I was just talking to someone about this earlier today. The challenge with MSP sales and MSSPs, however many letters you want in there, selling cybersecurity is that right now in this role play, Tim, the end user, is not problem aware. So in other words, let's pretend like he has high blood pressure, and we've got the best blood pressure medicine. I get you. We have the best blood pressure solution in the world. If he doesn't know he has a problem, though, he doesn't need a solution. So just think through problem solution. We haven't proven there's a problem. We're just like, the industry's changed, so let me give you a solution. I don't think you're going to make a sale.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm totally. This is really just the why, right? Like, so, like, what are the problems that might happen and why they might happen? And I think that's where I kind of was driving. So I don't know if that was like the right approach, just to go to the why.
Good. All right, maybe I cut you off too soon.
So let's pause here, right? So what did we learn from the three of us during this quick little role play? And by the way, I try to do this with our staff and like do different role plays. I think it's a really great way for all of us to educate each other on what works and what doesn't work, right? So for me as the end customer, like, yeah, I was dismissive of what happened because he had a high school kid or, you know, a neighbor's cousin of a friend 3 times removed. He didn't have an awesome Tim. So I'm good, right? I was dismissive of the event that put the veterinary practice out of business.
So in other words, you were almost seeing this as it can't happen to me because I have you, Tim.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a possible conversation point, because this isn't like it's not debate class. Like, you're not trying to shut the end user down or, prove him or her wrong. So a possible angle you could take there is, okay, I hear you. It sounds like you're kind of thinking, though, that you're, not able to get breached or hacked because you have us as your outsourced IT company. Am I understanding you correctly? So the principle there, like if we go to first principles, the principle is seek to understand where your prospect is coming from, because Tim did kind of throw out but they had a deadbeat IT company. You're not deadbeat. That's why I pay you and I trust you. And the therefore that he may not have said, he may have, was therefore I think I'm fine. And so I've got a whole framework inside of my book that I borrowed and repurposed from the Gap Selling book, Gap Selling by Keenan. It's a great book. And the framework is impact versus likelihood. And those are the only 2 things you have to prove. Like if you look at them like arguments in a court case, impact and likelihood. And likelihood is the logic. Impact is where you do emotion.
We talk a lot about likelihood and impact from a risk perspective. I'm liking how you're relating the similar conversation from a sales perspective.
Yes, 100%. Because what Tim, the end user, was saying, it's very hard because you're both named Tim. It's unfair. So Tim, the end user, was saying, I don't believe the likelihood is high that this is going to happen to me. because I have you, because I pay you, and isn't this what I'm paying you for? But that is a likelihood argument or a likelihood objection.
Yep.
And so,
is that better? You can use my pseudonym, Goldeneye.
oh, I love it. Thank
Call me
you.
Golden.
So Goldeneye said that's what he was saying is I don't think it's likely to happen. And let's just draw a silly analogy. And I'm going to ask both of you to play along. I'm going to ask the live stream people to play along as well. So let's pretend that you are living in your dream house. Like, I don't know what that is. But I do want, like, if you're able to close your eyes, if you're not driving, play along. If you're driving, just imagine. Don't close your eyes, please. Total liability issue.
In your mind's eye.
It's your dream home, okay? And like for me, that means I have a whole lot of windows that overlook the woods, and I have the sound of water, which could be a stream, it could be just a water feature, and I'm in the back in my nice, comfy furniture, probably curled up reading a book, and it is a Saturday morning. All right. So Goldeneye, do you have that in your mind's eye?
Oh, sure.
Okay, Tim, you're good.
Yeah, I'm good. I think it's,
okay.
And like I said, this conversation is much different than with a new client, and it's these legacy clients. I think that most MSPs like struggle to, move the ball, right? Like,
yeah. So let's pretend you're in your dream home, and the doorbell rings, and you go to the doorbell, or you go to the door, and there's a salesperson there saying, "Hey, I want to sell you window insurance," and you're like, what is window insurance? And you're like, yeah, well, no matter what happens, even if that big window at the top of your 2-story foyer is broken, we are going to replace it. No questions asked for the life of the home.
Yeah, but do you have Linux insurance? Because, I heard Windows is just gross.
Yeah, okay, all right, hold on. Bear with me. And you're like, what? And you're like, they're like, yeah. And you're like, I don't know of the last time that like a window was broken. That's kind of your first, you're going, doesn't make any sense. Like it's not going to ever happen. And then you put it through the second thing, which is, but if it does, I'll just buy a new window. Like what's a window cost? $1,500? Like I'm living in my dream mansion, $1,500 window, no big deal. So you got
I could talk to Tim. Yeah. So he happens to be in Florida, right near the beach, in a very hurricane-ridden area, right? So, hey Tim, when you break a window, it's not like you break a window and you just replace it. It actually blows out your other side of your house. Like, and in this case, when you break a window,
all this water and all the junk in here and seaweed hanging from the ceiling and gross.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
if you're not in Florida, right, like you have to prove that it's likely to happen for me to even entertain whether or not I will buy it. And so that's just a point to say you've got to prove both of those arguments. So before we start talking about let's solve this problem, we have to prove there's a problem that needs to be solved and get the prospect or the client's buy-in to want to sell it.
Solve it. So I mean, with working from home thing, I'm trying to prove that there's more risk, right? And there's more. It's not as easy to protect them anymore, and there's some things we want to look at. I don't want to go into like the risk assessment mode.
Yeah.
But, more of a conversation on like the why and where the danger is, as you said, like likelihood and impact, right?
Yes.
So like the problem, cyber is hard because it's not a immediate ROI, like obvious driver, right?
It's not
resiliency.
It's not as tangible as replacing a laptop or a firewall or a wireless access point or a phone, right? It's not as
going from one monitor to 3 monitors, and we can prove, efficiency and effectiveness. 100% agree. And that's part of why it is so hard to sell, to the point, of the title. Why is it so hard to sell? It's hard to demonstrate. There really is no ROI. You can't, or you shouldn't be promising.
I disagree with that. Okay. There is ROI. So, and the way I explain it, conferences is resiliency, right? So like resiliency is worth something. If you invest in a stock and you've got a very reliable stock that doesn't move much, the return, basically they measure returns in investment returns. If you could buy a bond because you get the same payment and you'll get your money back, right? But stocks are up down, so returns volatility is actually a negative. So when you think about cybersecurity or resiliency, it's like you're investing in resilience. Like how you don't want to be down like 3 times or whatever, right? Like you want to have consistent service, especially in a service business. But even if you're not, like hosting website or something like that, right? Like that resiliency is worth money, right? And the investment's actually you need more return to justify more volatility. So it is bringing resilience down. It's like airlines. We talk about Spirit versus Delta, right? And Tim was just on Delta yesterday.
I wasn't on JetBlue and their incident in Logan like 5 minutes before I took off.
Right. So even if the seats were the same, you get delayed. Right?
We're getting into the weeds, and I love that we do this all the time. And it's not all the time. Hey, we made it 31 minutes before we went off the rails. So
new record.
New record. So
but I want to know if I convinced her. Yeah.
Let's recap, right? So cybersecurity isn't something tangible like a firewall or a laptop or even an internet connection or a phone service, right? It's not a tangible service per se, like have been, and back to my maturity comment earlier, we've been able to mature in selling those commoditized services that people are already educated on. Right. I think that's what I, wanted to kind of make sure I reset with in my mature conversation. It's not just us, but the people that we serve have matured to the point where they understand what a laptop is, what a antivirus is, what I would even say security awareness training is. The people that we serve as MSPs have matured a little, not a lot and not enough, right? And I think that's where the sales process starts to break down, right? Because we're tech geeks. We want to sell you the latest, greatest, funnest, neatest thing, whether it's it's an MDR, XDR, FDR, LMXYZR, whatever, right? And so,
sorry. Yes, continue.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So
right.
This is where I was going with this in this role play is like this evolving threat landscape, right? Working from home brings about all these other things, right? Like even if you have a VPN, like you're working on a machine that's authorized and secured by the company, right? Like we could start to really talk about all these different things of working from home. Are you on a public Wi-Fi? Are you working at a coffee shop? Right? Like there's 10 different attacks that we can talk about. I don't think I would go into that kind of detail on a one-on-one, but at some point, just into the why, right? And why we even do, like, it was interesting because like I said, I was at this conference this morning talking to SMBs, and they didn't really talk about, they were talking about like, how do we get users and teachers and whatever to not want to like turn NFA off, right? And things like that. And it'd be like, well, wouldn't it be great to explain to them, like, I'm a security expert. I know a friend who got his identity stolen, and I'm doing all these things to protect myself. Like, I use passkeys and I use a VPN on my personal machine, right? Like, so why wouldn't you have that same kind of, like, if they can understand the why, I think they can understand the want and the demand for the, the service.
And I think that's where we fall short, maybe. I'm using the proverbial we, by the way. I think that's where we start to fall short. Is Craig makes a great point here, right? Misalignment to the ICP, being like, I'm going to go back to what I said 10 minutes ago. You may actually have to talk to my customers. Like, I just want to talk to the computer and just send them an invoice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's weird that you're not having that, like, what do you do, Tim? Like, how does your business work? Like, what's your business data? It's kind of weird if you're like 3 years in and you're asking those questions.
Yeah, but I hear that a lot. So I'll help my clients like troubleshoot a sales call that didn't go so well, or a QBR where they didn't get the close. And one of the first things I say is like, okay, let's do a role play. Tell me about the company. And they're like, the name of the company is ABC Co. And I'm like, okay, great. What do they do? And they're like, I like manufacturing. I'm like, cool. What do they make? You know? I'm like, okay, well, how long have they been your client? 3 years. Okay, but like, do they have multiple shifts? I don't know. Are they manufacturing something for the government? I don't know. Are they okay, well, I think we've spotted the problem. Because
that being said, my previous employer, I was there 20 years and I still don't know what the hell they do. I'm kidding. I do know what they do, and I do know, but it took me a really long time, like, because they didn't make widgets, which is a completely different thing. But the premise of what I'm thinking you're saying, Jennifer, is that we don't know our customers as well as we probably should. We know their tech stack,
yes.
Right? We know what's broken. We know what needs to be fixed, right? We know, like, what's coming up for renewals and that kind of stuff.
Because that's what you
But we
sold
don't know
right?
them maybe as well as we should.
It's what you
didn't have to know them.
Right.
5 years ago, you didn't have to know them because you're like, do you need email? Do you need machines? We can provide you Dell laptops. Do you need a firewall? Do you need this? Do you that? Like, none of these questions historically have been like, I need to know what their business does, right? Like,
okay,
do they have PII? Do they have PHI? Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't, we're not talking about like hiring a researcher, right? Like, we're talking about maybe just doing a Google search, looking at their website. I mean, we're talking, I cannot imagine it would take more than 10 to 20 minutes to at least get a cursory understanding of the way the company works. And now you have ammo. Man, I hate to put it that way, but you now have a really strong indication what is important to this organization. If they're a manufacturer, they care about creating their.
All right. I have the really hard question.
Okay.
Maybe. So Tim, you and the post I shared from Jesse earlier, since Jesse's not here, I'm going to bring it up, right? So selling cyber, selling non-tangible things to a customer that doesn't understand it, right? To our legacy customer that I've been doing licensing or break fix or AV or, some standardized thing I had a year or two ago, right? Selling that next level of stuff to them. I guess the first question I would want to know is, do we even want to be selling this to them? Are we even in a position to actually provide those services to them, right? Are we in our own MSP? Are we doing MFA everywhere? Do we have things documented like we're supposed to? Are we following a framework? Are we drinking our own champagne that we're trying to sell you? Right? I would say that
that's an answer that, Tim, that's, I think, an obvious, like, it's a mixed bag, right? Like, there's very savvy MSPs that we know, and some of them are commenting
great.
Here.
Hey, thanks, Bob, for bringing up maturity. MSP.
Great, Bob over here.
CMMC conversation, Bob. Thank you.
I've got MSPs that, as you said, like, they don't have policies. They don't have incident response policies. They don't have some of the things that, compliance scorecard provides.
Jennifer, you work with the vast majority. You work with a diverse set of MSPs, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And so, as your book says, selling cyber, as your, cybersecurity Sherpa, as you're trying to help, Sherp them along the way, like, in that, and don't call any specifics. I know you would never do that, but, like, are they even eating their own dog food? Or are they just trying to search for the next MRR deal? Right. And I can't believe I'm saying this, right? Because it's probably going to get me a whole ration of crap like it has in the past. But should we even be selling cyber if we're not even doing these things ourselves? If we're not mature ourselves, should we be doing this for our customers?
Yeah. So I don't necessarily audit my clients and ask them if they're, eating their own dog food, drinking their own champagne.
You could go on that webpage, like you said, Jennifer, pretty quick. You get a really good gist of kind of what they're selling. Yeah,
because if I go, especially if they've got the vendors scrolling across the bottom, and I'm like, No,
Thanks.
backup disaster recovery vendor. I don't know. I'm just going to pick that one because we talked about that before or whatever. So I don't necessarily ask them, hey, are you doing this for your own organization? But while I don't audit them, I do preach it frequently. Like, guys, test your system, put yourself through your own onboarding process at least once a year, minimum once a year. Like I had to walk through a team member offboarding, read between the lines, unexpected offboarding a couple of days ago. And as a result of that, we've changed some of our checklists. And so it isn't, even internal to MSPs, internal to vendors, nothing is once and done. Hat tip to compliance and making sure those policies are up to date and things like that. But should an MSP be selling something that they're not even doing internally? No. But
They do.
Shoemakers' kids often don't have any shoes. Like, they're the last ones to look at their own selves. Like, I'm a sales trainer. Do I always listen to at least 2 or 3 of my sales call recordings every month? No. Do I always listen to one every, you know what I mean? So it's
funny you say this, Tim, because I had a post on this, right? And I was telling you, as a vendor, former vendor, right? NFRs, usually you give them out to the client. You're like, oh, you want to secure yourself and use our tool, right? I haven't had a lot of success doing that. But if they're like, oh, they have a squeaky wheel client that's like, oh, I've got some regulatory burden, and they're like, well, I'll give you the tool for free or very cheap, and like, let's see if this proof of value goes through. So they almost like they want to drop the plane off the cliff. They want to learn how to fly the plane as it goes down with the client in it. So they don't want to.
It does make a good point. When was the last time you saw a doctor in great health?
Well, yeah, I don't know, but they get paid to learn and paid to kind of like learn the product, bring the product to the client, and they don't have free time. Like, let's face it, MSPs. It's an opportunity cost to invest in figuring out how to write a policy on yourself or whatever, right? Self-improvement. But when, like I said, this vendor practice of giving them the NFR to use on the client instead of themselves, I've had incredible success there, because they're like, and you basically kind of coach them along and teach them. Tim, I don't know if you've seen that at Compliance Scorecard or not, but
yeah, some. So we started in this beginning of the conversation, like, cybersecurity is voodoo to our MSP customers. They kind of don't have an idea of what it is. I'm not going to use the Larry Flint quote, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you, but I know when I see it.
When you see it, yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so we've kind of like started there. We did a little role play. We came in, talked a little bit about objection handling. I brought up the big, elephant in the room of, should we even be doing this work? And now we're like, in the last probably 15 minutes here, let's just assume that MSPs, and I don't even want to assume, I believe in my heart that MSPs want to help their small businesses, that they're trying everything that they can to protect that veterinary clinic, right? And that's a very specific story that I'm talking about, that I know about. Mm-hmm. Not that it was a bad IT person. They tried to protect that veterinary clinic, right? In our little role play earlier. But they probably didn't have the right tools to explain the conversation in a manner in which the veterinary clinic could hear it, right? And so as we sort of, end in the last 10 or 15 minutes here, right? As an IT professional, as a geek, as somebody that loves the ones and zeros and pushing buttons and clicking things and hates talking to people, quote, quote, air quote, what are some tools I could put in my quiver that I could then have those awkward conversations, like actually talk to my customer. And not going back to how do I get a seat at the table, but like how can I approach my client and be like, dude, you really need security awareness training for everybody. Like, you really need to do two-factor. Like, not because I said so. Like, what are some tools I can do?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're saying tools such as a cybersecurity risk assessment, or
No,
you're
I'm saying from like a sales perspective, right?
Okay.
You're a sales Sherpa me.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I just want to make sure I understood
This is my
the
quiver.
question. Okay. Perfect. So what you want to do is open up the conversation, have a dialogue. So there's all this mystery and intrigue around discovery in the sales conversation, and all discovery is the awareness as an MSP being aware that the client, or in this case it's a client because you said they're an existing client, the client has blinders on, they have a blindfold on, they have no idea that they are under protected in this way, they have no idea the industry has changed, they don't know that they're at risk. They are just writing you a check every month, or you're ACHing it every month, and they think they're like 2 thumbs up. Good job, Tim. I'm protected. So they have blinders on, and it's your job during discovery to help them take that blindfold off, or take the blinders off. The way you do that is really open-ended questions. So you kind of hinted at this, like, are you aware that things have changed? Or you can take the approach, one of the things that you're investing in with us, if you look in the agreement, this is the line item, it says that we're going to be your virtual security officer, your vCISO, we're going to provide vCISO services, like whatever, however you have phrased that 2 years ago when you closed them. Do you remember that? Doesn't matter if they say yes or no, you're just trying to engage in conversation. So you're like, okay, well, one of the things that we do is we always keep our ear to the ground for you. And we're keeping an ear open for trends in the industry, changes in your niche, optimizations that we can bring you for your technology to make you better, stronger, faster, etc. But one of the big changes that I want to talk about is this ethereal concept called cybersecurity. And I'm assuming like you've heard the word. Have you kind of heard about it on the news at all? Is that like, or am I using a word you've never heard before? Like I'm asking an open-ended question, trying to get some dialogue. Yeah, I've heard it, but I think I'm fine, right? Well, let's have a conversation about that, because a lot of cybersecurity is around risk mitigation. And what I want to make sure is that you are aware where your risks are, and that if those are acceptable level of risks, then we're good. But what I don't want to have happen is that you're surprised if and when something happens, and you come to me and say, "I wish you would have told me." So I want to have an open conversation talking about risk.
Would it be fair?
Yeah, I was going to go there on that one. Bob just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it's a great catalyst. Sales catalyst, I think, and I say this all the time. It's like they're like, "Oh, I can't get insurance anymore," or "My insurance is $50,000." Even though we know, even if they were a great cybersecurity mature, business, they would still have a raise. But it's still a good way to say, "Hey, why can't you get insurance?" And like, start to talk about all the different attacks. You're like, well, business email compromise and invoice manipulation is like 50% of the problem. I don't even know who pays your bills, right? Like you could start to get into all the little niche like aspects of cyber insurance and what's driving it. And I think like that's why you could really, I think I was going there, Jennifer, as well on all the kind of the changes, right? Like from 2020 to 2023 post COVID, like there's clearly a dramatic change in working from home, and a lot of you said talk about the different threats, but like I was actually talking about like the conditions that created the threats.
Yep.
Or trying to go down the road. But
would it be fair? All right, I'm going to put my MSP hat on here for a minute, right?
You want to play MSP now? Yeah.
No, I'm going to put my MSP hat on here for a minute. And I've got legacy clients, and I've been watching the news. I've been reading LinkedIn. I've been seeing the stuff. I'm an MSP. I'm worried about my legacy clients. I haven't really talked to them in a while. Maybe I have a QBR. Maybe I'm delivering, ticket counts, and I'm delivering stuff that they've been used to. But now I want to have like this hard conversation, right? Me personally, I might approach those legacy customers and I might say, you know what, Mr. Customer, Mr. Schnurr, we've been longtime clients, and we've been providing you services, but I don't think I've been doing the best job in protecting your business. Do you think I've been protecting your business?
So I'm not an attorney and I don't play one on TV, but I don't know that you want to go down that path.
Oh, Tim, you're muted, my
And
friend.
you're muted, but you are saying something powerful. I can tell.
Yeah,
because you're saying lots of
Brad
words.
goes like, don't put yourself in a bad situation, and as you said, admit negligence.
So, all right, and I'm glad you both picked up on that, right? So, because I wanted you to pick up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Pick up on that, right? So, first and foremost, admitting my mistake and admitting I maybe potential breach of contract is not one path in my tool chest.
No.
However, let me say it differently, right? Let me say it differently this time. Hey, Mr. Schnurr, it's been a while. I know we're doing our quarterly business review. This time we're going to do things a little differently, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I know that I have been talking to you about ticket counts and then spam emails blocked and computers that we've replaced. But I'm telling you what, the world has changed. I've been up on this stuff. I've been paying attention to this stuff. Our team of experts have been bringing me up to speed. There's threats everywhere. Did you hear about the veterinary clinic down the street from you that got taken out by this cyber attack? And now this 30-year family-owned company is gone. Are you aware of that situation?
Yeah, and then it's I think I have the exact conditions, like the exact I was kind of surprised. You're like, do you know why it happened, right? Like, or what was it, or the more you know, the better.
Right. And so you, as a fellow veterinary, I bring my dog to see you, right? And I'm worried and I'm concerned. Like, if that can happen to Joe's veterinary clinic, 10 miles down the street from you, I want to make sure that we're providing you the best possible service. So I want to talk to you a little more in depth about this thing called cybersecurity. Right. I don't want to talk about tickets anymore. Like, those are great. I can keep giving you that data. In fact, I can automate that and send it to you once a month so we don't have to talk about it. I would rather have the conversation with you about protecting your business, about making sure that my dog can always get the great care that you provide and not have to worry about going out like Joey's down the street. Is that a conversation you want to have with me?
I think that's good.
Yep.
So the point I was trying to make here, right, and we've got like 8 minutes left, is
everyone like, some people will be more receptive to that, and some people will be like, Tim, I pay you to do your job. Do your job.
Sure.
So, exactly, right? And so you obviously need to be able to, adjust the conversation, speak in terms that your clients can relate to. Right. And I think Jennifer said it pretty eloquently. Like, don't talk geek, talk in terms they understand. And as Tim always says, talk, and relate it to the risk that they face. Right. Selling this stuff, selling anything can be hard. Selling this voodoo, magic, wizardry, cybersecurity thing that I don't think anybody could really actually put a definition to when it comes to products, services, delivery mechanisms, and all the things that go into that as an MSP. It's really hard. Being able to break that down, being able to relate that to the business, especially your legacy clients who are used to hearing about ticket counts or this or that, and maybe have some education around the cyber aspect. I think that's the hard part for us as IT professionals, is how do we sell that?
And as we've been talking about risk, like we just to kind of bring this full circle, we started talking at the very beginning, like the risk-based selling matrix is, if you picture it like a Venn diagram or a like a Gartner Magic Quadrant 2x2 grid, the way you prove risk is likelihood and impact. And likelihood is very logical. Sure, yes, I recognize there's an increased likelihood but it may not really impact me. Like, okay, so we've got the likelihood logic. Now we need to prove the impact, which is the emotion. And Tim, you were saying like FUD. I don't necessarily shy away from FUD. I mean, you've got two ways of creating emotion, positive emotion and negative emotion, and negative emotion sells better. And if our goal is to protect the client and make a sale, then negative emotion.
I love this one, Chris. I was literally just having this conversation with my marketing team this morning about the difference between data privacy and data security.
Chris, that is a name I have not heard. That's like from a previous life. Chris, nice to see you here.
So we've got 5 minutes left. We always try to end with one key takeaway. I'm gonna key up Mr. Schnurr over here and Tim. Talk about your one key takeaway.
Yes, I mean the big thing, like I said this morning, which kind of surprised me when these small businesses were talking to a panel, MSPs, insurers. Some of them may be on here right now, but I think a lot of the questions were about how do I convince the stakeholders or leaders of the organization to invest or like support or empower, right? And I think that it all comes down to the why. And Tim was just talking about the veterinarian clinic, right? Or like someone that got hit. And I don't think it's that much of a reach to basically talk about how they clicked the link and then these things happened. And you have these perfect, if the same thing happened to you right now, there's nothing we can do to stop that. So there's some things that I want us to consider, things like that, right? So I like I said, them understanding the why on that question didn't really come out today over that hour and a half that I was there. But the why I think is really important, and that will drive hopefully not using FUD, Jennifer, and and just getting their not everyone has a tolerance for like kind of dissecting the attack of neighbors and other companies, but the more they can understand it, the more they're going to be passionate about like empowering it as well, not just investing in it, because it's going to take their leadership to get all the employees in the company like on board with using it, an MFA or whatever it is. So that's my take. Switch the screen, man.
I am. I was trying to type, my friend. So all right.
Yeah.
Great takeaway, Tim. I appreciate that. Right. And so Jennifer, you've got some fun things coming up here. I don't know, maybe I want to grow, who knows, right? Why don't you take a little bit about telling us, what you have going on, maybe you have the ability to share your screen. If you don't, I'll try to figure that out. But, your key takeaway, what's coming up? How do we turn this into practice? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So my key takeaway, this is very meta. This was not said anytime in this whole live stream. So my key takeaway is that we all have to practice our sales pitch, our discovery conversations, however you want to frame that, our sales process. We can't just practice it in our head. We have to practice it out loud. Like in our head, I don't know if you're like me, but the words always sound really good in my head. And then when I go to try to articulate them, sometimes they just don't come out quite the same way. And so practicing and having those brainstorming sessions and saying, okay, I need to be able to prove risk. How do I have this conversation? Well, what if the person won't open up? Then what do I do? What are some other conversations that we could have? What are some conversation starters? How technical do I want to go? How FUD, how much fear, uncertainty, and doubt do I want to use? And practicing that is super important. That is one of the things that you asked, what am I excited about? I have an event coming up in May. It's in Dallas, Texas. It is May 6, 7, 8. So it is 2 full days plus a networking event the night before. That's very fun. And I'm not talking about it yet because we don't have the ink dry on the agreement. But it is everything that you need as far as frameworks and mindset shifts and sales pitches and marketing conversations for your cybersecurity division or your cybersecurity MRR to take you from wherever you are now to a $5 million company. So we're revealing all of those trade secrets so that if you have a desire to grow and to be best in class and cutting edge, that event is for you. So I don't know if there is a way. I dropped it. Okay, cool. It's mspsalesrevolution.com/ultimate. We have about 3 or 4 days left on the early bird tier 1 tickets. We've got, I think, 8 VIP tickets left. So if you are a VIPer and you refuse to wait in line and want to be at the front of the room, that is for you. But it is fantastic. It's very workshop focused. It's very designed for you to walk away having implemented stuff. This is not a sit and soak kind of event. This is a get stuff done event. So so definitely take a look at that. And while you're on my site, you can poke around, lots of resources, get more information on my book as well. But that event is going to be fantastic.
Thank you so much for that, Jennifer. And we're, obviously we're looking
forward to.
We got a good
one next week. Yeah.
The great things coming out. The great things coming out at your Ultimate Growth Conference here. Checking on out at MSPSalesRevolution.com. Mr. Schnurr, next week.
Next week, awesome. Matt Lee, Bob Miller, who's just quoting, jumping on the comments here.
Team Tim versus Team Miller versus Team Lee. We're still trying to get Phyllis, right?
Yeah. So great effort that really jump-started mapping all the vendors to how they map to CIS controls. And it's early in the process, but the dream and the vision is you'll walk into a conference showroom. They'll have little cards that talk about which controls of the CIS 1 through 18 sub-controls. Do they partially meet them? Do they fully meet them? Do they facilitate? So awesome conversation. Awesome. I think it's going to really change the maturity of MSPs and certainly their buying behaviors and who's actually doing things and not doing it. So there's Bob. So we're psyched about it. I know we were overtime though. So go ahead.
We're overtime. I let it go because obviously we wanted to give Jennifer a chance to talk about her event coming up. We're really excited about Team Tim versus Team Miller next week. So we're trying to get Phyllis Lee on there too. Phyllis, if you're listening, Matt, if you're listening, Bob, if you can get us Phyllis, then it would be Team Tim versus Team Miller versus Team Lee talking CIS. Fingers crossed. Next week, 2 o'clock. Live here on LinkedIn. It's going to be a great debate. And so we're looking forward to that next week. Everybody have a great rest of your week. And we're out of here. Thank you.
Subscribe now.